Good morning, everyone, and thank you as always for taking the time to jump on and join us as part of our dealer education series. My name is Katie Town, Regional Marketing Manager for AGCO, and today you'll be hearing from two very important pieces of our marketing puzzle. Mariah Madsen, who is the Media Director for AGCO Direct, and Jordan Bodley, who manages the front lines for our AGCO lead management team, who are, as we speak, having conversations with prospects who are responding to our corporate marketing efforts. They have expressed an interest in our product, so that team is vetting them and pulling those through the funnel to pass along those qualified opportunities to you at your dealership. So as you can see from our agenda, Mariah will explain what media is running and on which channels, and Jordan will take us through an update on your region's results, an update on the Quick Quote pilot, some changes we have made to improve both your and the buyer's experience with our brands, as well as a reminder that there is an AGCO Academy lead management module, which is out there for your lead gen recipient to take. As always, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end, so please enter any of those for us. And I will pass it over to Mariah to get us started.
Thanks, Katie. Good morning. As Katie said, I'm the Media Director for AGCO Direct, and I'm just going to give a real quick overview of what we've got going on the corporate level. Our tactics are exclusively digital. And we're doing, as the slide says, a mix of awareness and familiarity. We're using online display ads, paid search, paid social. That's right now exclusively on Facebook, and YouTube. So we're doing some pre, post, and mid-roll, pre-roll video, as well as some companion ads that are display ads that accompany that video. Throughout the campaign, we've been underway now for just over 2 months. We started, media's been running for the entire year. However, we've taken over at the beginning of May, and we have been testing and optimizing creative. We've been making some tweaks to our calls to action and images along the way to make sure that everything we're doing is we're optimizing to those people that are most likely to take action. So all of this activity, the goals are to get people to the website and ultimately generate leads that turn into opportunities that we can hand over to the dealers.
Great, and I'll jump in. Thanks, Mariah, for the update on the corporate media side. So I have a pretty fun job, and that's working to really understand all the people that come to the Massey Ferguson or the Challenger or the Gleaner, any AGCO brand website, understand what their unique situations are, capture that, and get those situations in front of your dealerships and the lead gen recipients at the dealerships. So we've got a team here on the lead management group. We've got a team here of about 10 people that, to Katie's point, are actively having conversations as we speak with buyers online. And these buyers come from a lot of the corporate marketing activities that Mariah just went through. These are people responding to paid ads. They're seeing ads on Facebook and they're clicking on those, and they're landing on Massey Ferguson or Challenger or Gleaner or other brand websites. And our team works to engage them in a live conversation and talk to them about their unique situation and what they're trying to accomplish. We work to understand buying time frames. Are they going to finance the equipment? Are they going to pay cash? Are there any unique applications that they're going to be using the equipment on that need to be considered? So we really try and go way beyond just a typical lead, but really work to qualify these really well before they're passed over to your dealerships. And that's, we've come a long ways, and AGCO has invested a lot in this effort to make sure that the opportunities that are passed to your dealerships are highly qualified. These are real people that have real needs and need those needs facilitated. So it's a pleasure to talk to District 20 this morning, and I wanted to highlight a specific opportunity that we captured this year in this district, and just kind of go through the types of opportunities that we're sending on a daily basis to the dealerships in this district. So this is Mitch Black. We captured him early on in January, so early on in the year. He'd had a need for a 4,700 to do about, to cut about 150 acres of hay. He has a Kubota, so he's got a mixed brand farm there, and he, just talked about how his Kubota struggled a little bit with that baler that they're using, and we're in the market for something different. So we captured that. He responded from a paid ad. We got him quickly transitioned over to Bannister Tractor. I don't know if they're on the phone or not, but if so, Mitch did end up buying from Bannister. So this is a great example of an opportunity of a buyer that came through paid media. We were able to capture him really efficiently when he was on the website, understand his needs and accommodate his needs, get him in front of a great dealer that could do something with those needs and close the deal. So good job, Bannister. This was an excellent opportunity, and this is one of many. So one more thing I'll mention before I dive too much into results for this specific region. In fact, I'm going to back up real quick. It's guys like Mitch that really expect this type of an experience as a buyer. The expectations of these buyers have changed over time. Buyers in general have changed over time. And the expectation is that when I reach out to a brand and when I express interest, that brand is going to take good care of me and understand my needs and facilitate those needs. And it's the brands that provide the best buying experience that will win the most deals. It's the brands that remove the most barriers to entry or the most barriers to buying that will win the most deals. So the commitment from AGCO is we will continue to invest in technologies and solutions that create good buying experiences for people interested in our equipment. And we're also going to continue to invest in dealerships that work to produce really good buying experiences for the leads that we're producing and also the buyers that just naturally walk through your front door. All right, so I'll move on. So this is just a quick overview of the volume, I guess, of opportunities we've produced in this district year to date. And this data is up to date as of the 7th, so a couple of days ago. You can see that this is a very heavy compact utility region. So a lot of smaller equipment in this district, which is pretty normal. There has been actually a little bit of an uptick in Massey and Challenger, and we're also seeing a little bit of an uptick in Fendt as well, equipment as well. So not just the small equipment, we've also got some big stuff coming through as well. But we can see that the large majority is compact utility And I can also confidently say that if I were to do a similar chart for you for July 7th, 2018, we're actually overperforming last year by about 30%. So we're seeing a big increase in demand in this region for small ag, and it's been fun getting to talk to each of these and sending these opportunities to your dealerships. Now, if we look at what's the value of these opportunities that we're producing, we can see that we're at about $40 million in pipeline that we've passed over to dealerships at this point in this region. Again, very heavy in the compact utility, but you can see with the larger ag stuff down there, it's starting to creep up in value. So some, $40 million of opportunities that have been distributed across dealerships in District 20 and have the opportunity to work. Now, keep in mind, as I talk through this, and I already talked a little bit about how buyers have changed over time. And the reason why Mariah talked about more of an emphasis on digital is because I don't want to say gone are the days, but it's more and more common to have buyers go online and do some due diligence before walking into a dealership and making a purchasing decision. I think we've all been there at dealerships, and buyers want to be very efficient with their time, and they don't want to walk into a dealership and spend lots of time trying to figure out the best model or negotiating. They want to minimize that time as much as possible, I guess is what I'm saying. And so they're going online. They're doing as much due diligence as they can online to determine, hey, I think this is the model I need, or this is the implement I need for my application. Now, they're not always right, and I hear from dealers all the time where we'll pass through to the dealership, here's what this customer is doing, and here's what they want. And a lot of times I'll hear from a dealer that, well, that's not actually that model's not gonna accommodate their needs. And so we still absolutely need our dealers to help these buyers select the right piece of machinery for their usage. But buyers are coming in more educated, whether that's the correct education or not, they are coming in more educated. And so, and they're doing that in the digital space. So that's where we'll continue to invest in engaging online and trying to capture them online. But you can see a big portion of that is compact utility, and will continue to be very strong into the foreseeable future. All right. Let's talk really quick about how these buyers move through the sales process. And I've broken this down by professional producer and also down by compact utility as well. So we'll look at pro producer first, and then we'll look at compact utility here in just a second. So when the lead management team over here at AGCO captures a buyer opportunity and goes through the dealer assignment process and gets handed off to a lead gen recipient at the dealership, it'll land in a default stage, is what we call it. It's a stage of an opportunity, and that default stage is dealer assigned. So as soon as we make that assignment, it'll just stay in the dealer assigned stage. As the lead gen recipients engage with those opportunities and start to schedule visits and quote equipment and do demos, excuse me, that stage will need to be updated so that AGCO can be aware of what's happening with the opportunities that have been distributed to dealers. So what you're seeing here is a bit of a progression of how we would typically see an opportunity flow through the sales funnel. It would start in dealer assigned. You typically would see that move to customer visit scheduled or demo scheduled or something like that is another stage. From there, it would move to a quoted stage. And after quoted, you'd end up seeing it as won, lost, or moved into this nurture stage. If you're curious at all about the dealer assignment process and how that works, we did cover that in our lead management webinars last year. And we'd be happy to, if you want to just raise your hand on the panel when you ask questions and just request some information there, we can make sure and distribute to you guys some information on how opportunities are distributed to dealers, how the dealer assignment process works, and that whole thing. But when we see a distribution similar to this, and you'll see the same thing on compact utility, I guess a little bit of the question we have to ask is, wow, we've still got a lot, especially in the pro producer space. I mean, we're talking over $5.5 million in value here. We've still got a lot that are still, excuse me, kind of stuck in this dealer assigned stage. So we have to ask ourselves the question, are the customers or the buyers rather that we're distributing, excuse me, that we're distributing to a dealer, are they unresponsive, or are dealers having a hard time getting in touch with these buyers? The other question that we have to ask is, are these buyers even being engaged with at all? And are they having a good experience? And I'll kind of talk about some of the post-handoff things that we do to check the experience and make sure these buyers are having a good experience. But from a corporate media perspective, we get asked all the time, hey, for these dollars that we're investing in market, these digital ads, these paid ads, the dollars that we're investing in generating awareness for Massey, for Fendt, for all of our brands, are those dollars paying off? Are we seeing any type of return on that investment? And when we produce opportunities and send them over to the dealerships, we really rely on this kind of information to ensure that we can answer that question. It becomes a difficult conversation when we say, well, we're not really sure if that investment is paying off or not. Then we start to get challenged on whether we should continue to invest in generating awareness in that way into the future. So it's important, and I just want to emphasize, to please make sure that as a lead gen recipient, when you receive notification that an opportunity has been assigned to you, that you take that responsibility seriously, I guess, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, these buyers are raising their hand saying, hey, I'm interested in your equipment. They've gone through conversations with our team. They've expressed the need. They've articulated their situation. And it's just really demoralizing for a buyer to go through that experience with the manufacturer and then turn around and not have a good experience or hear from a dealer. So the hope is, a lot of these that are in dealer assigned are being communicated to, and they're just not being updated. So if you could please, as a lead gen recipient, make sure that you're going into your lead counter, managing the stage of these opportunities so we can have a better idea as to how these are progressing through the sales funnel. So we can start to answer the questions on, is our investments in corporate media making a difference? And if it is making a difference, where? So we can actually look at, are the ads on Google performing better? Are the ads on Facebook performing better? And once we start to recognize that, we can shift where we spend dollars on corporate media based on the positive ROI and results that we're seeing within different channels. But the only way we can do that is if we have an accurate representation around what's happening with the buyers we're distributing to dealerships. So this is kind of a curve that we don't like to see. We like to see more of a bell-shaped curve, which is a lot of the opportunities that we have distributed to dealerships aren't sitting in dealer assigned, but they're moving through the sales process. They're scheduled, or their demos are happening, or the customers are quoted, and then we like to see those move to one lost or nurture. I'll move over to the compact utility distribution. It's pretty similar, as you can see. A lot still stuck up in dealer assigned, over 800 opportunities that have been assigned that are still there. Over $17 million in opportunity. So again, really encourage you as lead gen recipients to get in and manage those in your lead counter. I will also mention that we did cover last year in our series an actual demo and walkthrough of the lead counter and how to get in and manage opportunities. So if you're not familiar with that, again, please raise your hand and ask the question during the Q&A, and we'll make sure and get distributed to you some instruction on how to update leads and manage leads in the lead counter. I will also mention one time before we move on, the closed nurture stage. For those of you, it's a newer one, so those of you that aren't familiar with closed nurture, if you, for example, get an opportunity assigned to you that you engage with, and the customer, or the buyer rather, is just quite a ways off for making a decision. Maybe you've answered some preliminary questions, but they're not going to be interested in buying for maybe the next 6 months or whatever threshold you deem appropriate. You can just close that into the closed nurture stage, and that will actually drop those buyers into our corporate email nurturing campaigns. So they can still be distributed content relevant to their situation, but you don't necessarily want to see them sitting in your lead counter for the next 6 months. So that's a stage that you can use for that purpose. All right, we kind of did this last year too. We're going to do it again, but you might see your dealership on here. You might not. These are some of the dealers that have the most amount of dealer assigned opportunities that are still kind of sitting in that stage. So if you do see your dealership up here, I'd encourage you to jump in and really work to update a lot of those leads that are in your lead counter. It'll help us a lot from a reporting perspective, and to ensure that these buyers are having good experiences. All right. So what I wanted to do also was just kind of show District 20, here's where we're at in relation to all of North America from the close won rate. So looking at the data, we have we're currently sitting at a 26% win rate across North America, which is pretty good. That means 1 of every 4 deals that you see from from AGCO will close, will win. So that'll be a tractor sale that you'll get to make, 1 out of every 4. So far is what we're seeing year to date. Specific to District 20, we're seeing a 19, it's like 19.5, 20%. So we're kind of on that okay to good threshold. It's a little bit behind the North American close rate, but it's still a pretty good close rate. So I just encourage all the LGRs and salespeople in District 20 to keep pushing hard, and I'm confident that we'll get you up to that rate that we see across North America. All right, so we're going to talk real briefly about escalation. So buyer issues or buyer escalation and how that's handled. When we transition an opportunity to your dealerships, we will not just kind of flip that over the fence and expect, I mean, the expectation is that they are having a good experience, but there are always situations where a buyer and a dealer just aren't communicating well, or a buyer's expectations aren't met. So we are doing follow-ups with the buyers post handoff to your dealerships. And it's not meant to babysit or be big brother. It's just to do a check with the buyer to make sure they're getting what they need. And if not, make sure that you dealerships know what the buyer's expectations are so that we can get them what they need. So this is an example where we had a buyer, Brian, who came back to us and said, "Hey, I don't feel like the dealer we're working with cares about my business. He's not being very upfront with me in his communication, and he doesn't have inventory, isn't telling me if he can get inventory. I'm not having a good experience." So we capture that information, and then we work to facilitate and triage these issues through account managers and sometimes through the dealers directly. There's been a few changes in regards to how that communication happens, so I'll talk about it in a second. But we do constantly get buyer feedback when their expectations aren't getting met, and that's feedback that we measure. And we just want to ensure that when these friction points, like I call them, bubble up, that they are solved and routed to the appropriate individuals so that buyers can buy the equipment. This is real-time loss prevention, I guess, in my opinion. It's an effort to make sure we get in front of the buyers and their expectations before they're not met, and then we lose a deal to a competitive brand. All right, so we'll jump in now to Quick Quote and how that is set up and functions. I'm sure that you, as LGRs or your dealerships, may have heard of Quick Quote Ready and the pilot that we've been running for the last, it's been since March. And we've been measuring some of the results of that. For those of you that aren't familiar with Quick Quote Ready, I'm just going to go through a quick overview because it actually is a great value to your dealerships to use as another sales tool to engage with buyers digitally. So the objective of the Quick Quote Ready pilot was to A, give customers more of what they want, B, alleviate some of the work that the dealerships have to do to engage with these buyers a little bit, and C, try and close more deals from an AGCO perspective. One thing that we have recognized is, again, the brands that have the most roadblocks to the sales process are the brands that tend to not win as many deals. One of the most common requests that we get from buyers online is, how much is this thing going to cost me? Because they're comparing maybe against a competitive brand, or they have a very specific budget, monthly payment or cash down budget that they need to meet, and they need to know right out of the gate what this tractor is going to cost them and if it fits within those parameters. And that's a question they're asking earlier and earlier on in the buying process, in order to even consider walking into a dealership. They're saying they don't want to even spend time in the dealership without knowing if this is even going to fit in their budget or not. So we knew we needed to get some pricing in front of these buyers as quickly as possible so they could start to make some of those considerations. Well, last year, we started distributing just basically build-em quotes to these customers. We were going into the build-em quote tool, and we were doing build-em quotes for the customers and sending that over to them. What we found late last year was the build-em quote tool, the build-em quotes that we were distributing were only, it was just providing MSRP pricing. And what we were finding was that was consistently, I would say 10 to 20% over competitive quotes they were getting from dealerships or from other manufacturers. So the MSRP the pricing that we were delivering was of no value. In fact, it was the inverse of value. It was putting opportunities at risk, because everything we were distributing to a buyer was, at least in the GC tractor space, $2,000 to $4,000 more expensive than all of their competitive quotes. So they would just disregard AGCO right out of the gate. They wouldn't even walk into an AGCO dealership because their expectation was we were priced way higher than our competition. So the value of this pilot was to try and get them a more accurate price to use in their comparisons. Again, it's convenience. They want to do a lot of this homework right up front, and they want to do this in the comfort of their own home, in their own space, at their own time. And so being able to facilitate their journey and their research with being able to distribute some more accurate pricing on their terms leaves them with a more comfortable feeling of their relationship with the brand. So those are some of the customer pain points that we're trying to solve with Quick Quote Ready. When it comes to dealers, a lot of the feedback is, man, I get a lot of leads. Some of them aren't as serious as others, or some of them aren't going to buy for quite a long time. How do we continue to optimize the quality of what is being passed off? This is a way you can do that. It ensures that before a lead is even sent to your dealership, they have actually been provided pricing that you would deliver to them, because it's using your Quick Quote defaults. It's using the prep and delivery and the margin and all the defaults that you've set up in the quick quote tool. It's using those things. So it gives you an opportunity at no cost to you, the ability to engage with a buyer with an accurate price before ever seeing them hit your lead counter or hit your email inbox. So it extends the reach of your dealership. And this is a service AGCO's providing to try and drive more qualified business to your dealerships that close and buy equipment from you. From an AGCO perspective, it's how do we, again, remove the barriers? How do we more quickly get these buyers pricing that's accurate, that they can use to compare with other equipment they're considering, that keeps us in the running, that keeps us in the consideration set, so that they do walk into your dealership and they do talk to you and they do test drive it and hopefully close the deal. And the belief is if we can remove those barriers, we're gonna facilitate and close more opportunities. All right. So that's kind of the reasoning behind the pilot. Just a quick run through of the quick quote process. So buyers come from all over the web based on Mariah's marketing that she's doing. Also just people organically coming to the branded websites. We engage with those people and with those buyers, talk about their unique needs. I've kind of talked about that already. The next thing we'll do is we'll determine a couple things. What type of equipment are they interested in? So we only run these quick quotes on GC tractors. Anything outside of GC or garden compact tractors still get MSRP pricing. If it's a garden compact tractor, we will go through the quick quote process. But we'll also check location. So there is an opt-in process for this quick quote ready program. You have to opt in as a dealership to participate in that. If you haven't, I really encourage you to do that. I would encourage you to opt into it, because one of the things we'll do is when we're talking to a buyer, we'll check using their zip code who their closest dealer is with the contract to sell the equipment they're interested in. If the closest dealership is participating in the quick quote program, we'll grab that dealer number and we'll go provide a quick quote to the customer using those dealer defaults on the equipment they're interested in. If the closest dealer to that buyer that can sell, has the contract to sell that equipment, is not participating in the quick quote program, we'll distribute base pricing, and I'll go through that here in just a second, which essentially is MSRP pricing. And again, keep in mind, MSRP pricing hasn't historically been very valuable for the buyers that we're distributing that to, because it's just not an accurate representation of what they're going to pay at the dealership. But they need something. They need something to compare. And so the hope is we can get more dealerships opting into this quick quote pilot, or this quick quote process, so that we can get them really accurate pricing on equipment they're interested in. So that's kind of the process we go through to distribute quick quotes. Here's a quick example of what one of those quick quotes look like. So as a dealership, you're going to see what's over here on the left-hand side. This is a quick screenshot of basically all the opportunity information that you're distributed in your email notification. In the opportunity details or the summary section, we will say, in this example, Tim was sent a quick quote for the 1725 MB, and here's the proposal number. So we'll actually give you that proposal number. Over on the right is a screenshot of that actual proposal. So this is a live example of someone in this district that we're providing quick quotes on behalf of today. And again, it's using the dealer's defaults that this buyer would actually be assigned to. So it gives them a much better price, an expectation of what they'll pay when they walk into the dealership. So let's talk real quickly about the results of this effort. We've been measuring pretty closely, is this making a difference? Is providing more accurate pricing making a difference in close rates? And here's what we found. So we compared the pilot period last year to the pilot period this year, which was March 11th through May 31st. And what we compared was what was our win rates when we were not delivering custom pricing versus when we are. And what we saw was a 15% increase in our win rates and a 7% reduction in our loss rates. So our win rates went up. And again, this is across North America. It's not specific to this region, but our win rates went up from 33% to 38%. Now, I know I said that our North American win rate was 26%, and so your question is probably, well, what's the difference between the 38 and the 26? So this data that you're seeing here is very specific to GC only tractors. So whereas the 26% is everything we're producing. So we saw some very positive indicators that if we can get more accurate pricing to these buyers, there's a higher propensity for them to consider Massey, walk into the dealership, and take the Massey brand much more seriously. Excuse me. So we are officially out of pilot phase now, and this is a rolled out formal program. Again, you can opt into this program. If you're not opted in, we encourage you to do so. And just make sure that if you haven't let your account manager know that you'd like to participate in it, that you do that, so that we can make sure and get the buyers that are going to walk into your dealership a more accurate price. Now, I talked a little bit about base pricing. So again, we recognize that MSRP was sometimes not helpful, I guess, to the buyers in considering pricing. So what we did was, for GC only equipment, we deliver base pricing based on, it's essentially MSRP minus discounts. So we use AGCO defaults where we can't use dealer specific defaults. So keep in mind, if you're participating in the program, the buyers are distributed pricing based on your defaults, not anything else. But if you're not participating, we've still got to get them a somewhat accurate price, otherwise they're not going to consider AGCO. And so we do have a set of base pricing quick quotes for GC only tractors that we do distribute to buyers when the dealership is not participating. If you're interested in knowing what's made up in those defaults, just ask the question in the Q&A and we can kind of go through some of that. But we've got to get these buyers some accurate pricing to compare. When it goes beyond garden compact tractors and into compact and mid-range and all that, it's still just MSRP pricing for now. And the reason why is because GC tractors are pretty cut and dry. There's not a whole lot of configuration changes and things that you have to get into, so it's pretty easy to configure that for a buyer. Once you get into compact and above, the options just become a lot more, I guess. And so we don't want to take the place of our dealerships when it comes to configuring the right equipment for the buyers. And so for now, we've opted just to do this quick quote program for GC only tractors. Okay. I think we're going to close up. Let me just double check. Yeah. So 2 more slides and then we're done, and then we can move into Q&A. Another change that's very important that's coming up is right now, lead gen recipients at the dealerships are used to just seeing an email notification saying, hey, opportunity's been assigned to you. Here's the details, good luck. What we have seen and what feedback we have gotten from buyers and dealers is the feedback from the buyers is, hey, I'm not hearing from the dealer that you told me you assigned me to. And a lot of feedback that we do get from dealers is, hey, I tried to call the opportunity, tried to call the buyer, but they're not responding. So we're trying to figure out how to solve that specific problem. And so some upcoming changes within the next couple of weeks will be an actual email from the buyer advocate on the lead management team to the lead gen recipient at the dealership saying, hey, can you let me know what salesperson is going to be assigned to this opportunity? If it's not the lead gen recipient, sometimes lead gen recipients distribute them to other salespeople. So you're going to get some communication from our buyer advocate representative to try and understand who the salesperson is that will be working with this buyer. And the intent is to actually do a warm handoff to that salesperson right now via email. So keep in mind, you're going to start seeing some of that communication, and the ask is that you're responsive to it, that, the buyer advocate on our team here will come to you and say, let me know who's going to be working with Jim or James, because I want to get a warm introduction done. And in the end, your salesperson is going to get an email from our buyer advocate representative with the buyer actually copied on that communication saying, hey, here's the salesperson you're going to be working with at the dealership. He's a great guy. Here's the situation. Let me know if you need anything. But the effort is to try and make that handoff a little bit more of a warm handoff to reduce the amount of buyers and or dealers saying, hey, I'm not hearing from the other party. So that's going to be coming up. All right, and lastly, just one last plug. We worked hard on this last year, and it's now live. There is a new lead gen recipient lead management module for the lead gen recipients, in AGCO Academy. So if you haven't already gone through that module, I'd really encourage you to do that. It takes you through lead management best practices and how to manage leads in the lead counter, and a lot of great information for you to take advantage of if you haven't already done so. Okay, that concludes a lot of what I was going to go through. I'm going to pass it over to Kaya over at AGCO Direct to go through the Q&A portion of the webinar.
Great, thank you, Jordan. If you have any questions, there's a little questions box that you can go ahead and type your questions into. We'll give it a couple minutes. It looks like we've got a couple questions that have come in. In the meantime, it looks like Ash Alt is on, and I'm going to see if I can unmute him and see if he can add anything. So give me just a second here, Ash. I've got to mute a couple people here first, I think, before I can get in. In the meantime, first question, I'm going to have Jordan jump in and answer this. First question is, I frequently get leads sent to me with a base pricing that's really low. Why is that, and how can that be avoided?
Yeah, that is a good question. And so what you're saying is the difference between the quick quote program and the base pricing. So the base pricing defaults that we have set up are, I believe the margin is set at 15% on GC equipment. I will have to double check all the other defaults represented in there. I'm not sure if there's prep and delivery fees in there at all. But the problem that we have with the base pricing is it doesn't include taxes and fees that a dealership quote would typically include. And so the best way to avoid that, we've increased the margin from 13, I think it was 12 or 13% originally, up to 15% to try and better accommodate a lot of those discrepancies. But the best way to avoid it altogether is to get opted into the program, get opted into Quick Quote, and then we're going to be using your defaults, and that won't be an issue for you in the future.
Okay, the next question we have here is, why is pricing distributed for non-GC equipment only MSRP versus MSRP minus discounts?
Say that one more time, Kaya. Can you repeat the question once more?
Why is pricing distributed for non-GC equipment only MSRP versus MSRP minus discounts?
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you recall, I kind of breezed over this a little bit in the presentation. The reason why is because just the complexity and the configuration once you go beyond GC equipment. We may explore bringing compact equipment into the consideration in the future. Maybe not, we'll see. But, the dealers are the product configuring people, the experts at this. And we want you to maintain that relationship with the buyer. And so for now, with this program, we've opted to just do MSRP minus discounts on the GC equipment only up to this point.
Great, thank you. And then, let's see, here's another question. We frequently get leads with bad information, equipment that we don't sell. We also have pricing happening. AGCO shouldn't be pricing anything to a customer, that should be up to a dealer. We've struck out with every one of these due to bad information or a promised demo that we don't have, etc. So I don't know that there's a question, but I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Jordan.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll add to that is we're working hard to make sure and only send quality stuff. That said, we're not perfect either. We're certainly not there yet from a perfection perspective. So my ask would be, thanks for the feedback, and I want to better understand it. I want to better understand your perspective and how we can improve for your dealership specifically. I really tried to emphasize the importance of getting some pricing to these buyers right out of the gate. Otherwise, they're just not going to come into your dealership. We've seen that historically. And so we've got to find a balance. We've got to get these buyers information that they want and need in order to continue the buying process. But at the same time, we don't want to replace what the dealership should be doing either. So, shoot an email to this marketing.leads@agcocorp.com email address, or shoot a note over to Ash or your account manager, and let's have a dialogue about what your dealership needs and what you envision and what you need to make sure you can sell more often to these buyers we're sending your way.
Great, thanks, Jordan. And then the last question we have, we've got What is the best way for me to view the quick quotes you've distributed to the customer using the proposal number?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's a bug that we've found. So the initial intent was give you the proposal number and allow you to go into the quick quote tool and search that proposal number. What we have found is because your dealership didn't create the proposal, that it's not actually viewable to you from a permissioning perspective. So I do have our quick quote tool team looking into a solution to that right now. Well, Tim Lyon is looking at that so that you can just search the proposal number and pull the quick quote down. Otherwise, it's, shoot me a request or reply back to your email notification and we'll get the quick quote distributed to you.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any additional questions. So if you do come up with questions, again, reach out to your account manager or anyone on the AGCO team. You should be getting a follow-up survey after this, so that's another good place too to add any additional questions. Unfortunately, I can't get Ash's phone unmuted, so he can't add in any information, but I'm sure he'll be following up with some of you dealers and the account managers with additional information. With that, I think we're set. Thanks, Jordan, for the information today.
Yeah, thanks everyone.